Good morning, Christy. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you today?
Can't complain. It's a great day to be alive.
Absolutely. I
What are
love
we going to
it.
do today?
Oh, so for those of you who are joining us, welcome to the Why in the Buy podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Chi Chi Okezie is joining us to talk specifically about networking. And I'll give you a brief little introduction about Chi Chi, and how we met. But I'm excited about this conversation. I think you are too, Jeff.
Well, listen, someone with a name like Chi Chi Okezie is going to be a lot of fun. And I think that networking is something that we don't do enough of. We don't take seriously enough. And despite as seriously as we need to take it, it's really one of the most fun ways to develop and grow a business. It doesn't have to be work. I've said this before, if we can't have fun while we're doing it, we've got to really reconsider whether or not we need to do it. But networking is one of those things that is fun and you have to do it. There's no way around it. You are doing it whether you know it or not. And if you don't know you're doing it, you're probably not doing enough of it. So I'm
right.
really excited to have a specialist like Chi Chi to kind of explain some of her ways of doing it, ways of having fun while doing it, and really for her to be able to attest to how important it is and how valuable it is to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chi Chi, I'm gonna brag on you for a little bit. So for Jeff's benefit and for those that are joining us, Chi Chi and I are both graduates of Emory University. More importantly, we're both graduates also of Oxford College, which is a feeder college for Emory University. And we'll give a big shout out to our Oxford alums out there. Chi Chi and I, when we found out we were both Oxford alums, we were extremely excited. And then we found out we were both networking facilitators, and that was just, that sealed the deal for us. But Chi Chi has has a fascinating background. She's the owner and producer of Simple Networking, and she works with organizations on business networking, cultural awareness, and diversity training. So we can have some discussions, Chi Chi, in the future, certainly about some of the work that you do on cultural awareness and diversity training too, because I know that our audience is going to be interested in some of those elements. You've written 2 books, Simple Networking and Networking Made Simple. You're a blogger and you run a monthly power networking breakfast, which I just joined. I'm excited to go to my first one. And you're the recipient of the 2013 40 Under 40 for Connect Magazine and Rejuvenate Magazine. And you are the 2015 Emory Campus Life Volunteer of the Year. Yay!
Okay, that's all well and good, but you forgot to say that she plays golf too, which is really more
important than
anything else.
Isn't that awesome? And Beth is a huge golfer, by the way.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for joining us, Chi Chi. We're really excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be online and give any type of knowledge and insights that I have on networking.
Well, how did you decide that you could make a career out of facilitating network or networking or obviously you feel that there's a need there, and Christy and I both agree, but when did you decide that you could make a business out of it or make a living doing it?
It's a great question, Jeff. A friend of mine, we were also Oxford alums as well. And at the time, she was a student at the School of Public Health. And she went to a networking event. And when she came back, she sent me an email and she said, Chi Chi, I went to the event, but I just didn't feel very comfortable. People were asking me questions. I couldn't answer them properly. I didn't know how to follow up afterwards. I didn't have business cards. And I felt like I just couldn't connect with the alums that were there. So we just kind of sat down and just wrote like a quick workshop on how to just better network, just how to present yourself, communication skills. And we presented it to her class. And after that, I was like, you know what, maybe I should turn this into a business. Maybe I should, do this full time and find a way to, let people know how to network and be just more effective in their communication skills. So that's kind of how that started.
Wow, that's cool. I always get inspired when there's just something that there's some sort of a need that arises, or some sort of a situation where you find yourself and you just start thinking, and that thought is almost always a good one.
Right.
But very rarely do people actually take that idea and then do something with it.
So true.
And that's the really cool thing. I mean, anybody who's listening to this right now has had great ideas before.
Right.
And you can talk yourself out of that being a great idea. And sometimes we need to, right? But other times it's, let me marinate on that for a little bit. Let me think about that for a little bit. And it sounds like you did that, and now you're wildly successful doing it. That's fantastic.
Thank you. It's definitely a journey.
So, you know, Chi Chi, I'm super interested. You have a number of different flavors, if you will, of the networking courses that you offer. Some of them I really want to dive into, but I thought I might let you tell the audience a little bit more about what you have in your toolkit and the differences between the different workshops.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first, like the basic one is like Network Like a Pro. And it just talks about how to prepare for a networking event before, during, and after. Very simple. And then I also included like a networking elevator pitch game as well to make things fun and interactive. And then I started to dig a little bit deeper. A lot of times people just think of networking as just a broad topic, but I really wanted to break it down into different segments and really address different types of issues. So I created my simple networking Fantastic Four, because I loved watching comics and cartoons when I was growing up. And so with the Fantastic Four, I have actually 10 to 11 different types of networking methods, and I have 4 specific strategies for each method. So, and that can actually build out to many different things, but I think my most popular out of the 10 or 11 is actually networking follow-up. So I offer 4 different strategic ways of following up, and I use 4 words, and they all are play-on-play words. So we have induct, inform, inquire, and invite. So that's induct, inform, inquire, and invite. And they all start with IN, so it's easy to remember, and just one word for each of the different methods or strategies. So you can, once you've met someone, a way to follow up is to be, to induct them into your networking circle, whether it's sending them a request for LinkedIn or Twitter or any type of professional social media platform, or email. Just follow up with an email.
It's not there's no ceremony and you give a speech.
No ceremony.
Okay.
No ceremony, Jeff, unless you want there to be. One of the things I do suggest when you induct your counterpart is that you give them a title, or I guess what you would say, a label. And the reason why I say that is because once you kind of categorize them, or put, and I hate to say like categorize and put in a box, but when you kind of label them, or at least create that relationship piece, then that automatically sets the expectations. So expectations, as well as communication styles, or even just how frequently you want to connect with this person. So if, let's say, for example, I've gone to a networking event, I met Jeff, we hit it off, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to follow up and I'm going to induct him into my networking circle. But I'm going to see Jeff more as a mentor rather than a colleague, or probably a customer or a client. And with a mentor, I'm like, okay, well, if he's my mentor, then I should probably reach out to him maybe once every quarter, just to update him on what I'm doing, what I want to pursue, and then the type of information. Because he's my mentor, I'll talk about things that are related to career, business advancement, and learning. And then also just I'd say the method of communication. We can email, we can use Zoom, or we can meet face-to-face if we have time. So when you give that person a position, I think that's better, not necessarily a label, but a position within your network, then that automatically kind of sets the expectations. And then going back to the Simple Networking Fantastic Four, you can also inform, where you reach out to the person and you offer information about certain things, whether it's anything that you're knowledgeable in or another event that may be coming up, or even information for leads, referrals, or introductions, right? And then we have inquire, which is the opposite of inform, where you're asking about opportunities, asking about references, or asking for leads, just to kind of continue to build that relationship and build that network. And then last but not least is invite, where you actually play the host and you invite that person to another networking event, or invite them for a one-on-one, a lunch, a meeting of some sort. Because the basic principle, I think, in networking is really to build relationships, whether it's long-term or short-term, and making those right connections. I've started to do a lot of research on networking, case studies, and I found that social capital is a big, big portion and a big influence in networking and building relationships.
How true. You know, Jeff and I were talking about very different but similar experiences we had, where we were, in my situation, I had been traveling for the last 15 years, at least 50% of the time. The last couple of years, I had been living living part-time in a different state. And then all of a sudden, I found myself without a job and starting a business in my hometown of Atlanta with a very atrophied network. Okay. And so, you know, it's so critical to have that social capital, to have those moments of, or those connections that you can pull in. And so that's what I've had to do for the last year, is work through it. And I think, Jeff, you went through something similar.
Right. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to make a career change and get out of an industry that I had been working in and kind of been brought up through for the previous 10 or 11 years. And I looked at my network and I wanted to get out of medical device selling. And I looked at my network and 95% of it was in medical device selling. And, you know, go figure, right?
Right.
But then in an industry like that, it's very, very small. And it's a very small community. So when you say, well, I'm looking to get out, oh, wait, all of a sudden there's blood in the water.
Right.
And, well, Jeff's looking to get out, and as highly competitive as that is, and well, if you're looking to get out, then get out. See ya. You know, and so there was a risk of that. There was a risk of, you know, anybody that even competitors of mine, or people who played in the same space, even if they weren't really competitors, you know, you say you want to look around, and everybody's kind of just, word spreads quickly, right? So I couldn't even look within that community, let alone ask anybody I knew about opportunities outside of that community. And I don't think medical devices are unique in that regard. I think most people listening to this right now could say the same thing about the industry that they're in. That's kind of the siloed nature of the markets that we work in. But I didn't have a network to go out of. You know, I knew a handful of people, and you know, why are you calling me? What are we doing? Yeah, I'm happy to have a cup of coffee with you. Let's have lunch. But what can I do for you? And there were a very small amount of people that I could do that for, or let alone who could do that for me. Right. And it wasn't until I needed that network that I realized that I didn't have it. And I'd hope that, you know, other salespeople in positions similar to mine at that time wouldn't fall upon that circumstance, right? You know, If we can do anything, it's pay it forward and say, hey, who do you know? And more importantly, who knows you? And do you have enough social capital in that relationship bank account, so to speak, to be able to ask someone for a favor? Because it's one thing to say, hey, can you come over and, you know, help me move this furniture or something like that, right? It's another thing to say, hey, can you help me change careers, right? I mean, that's a big deal, right? And you've got to help a lot of other people before, you know, you've found some people who are willing and even capable of doing that for you.
No, you hit on a lot of great topics when you were speaking, Jeff, especially the part of you didn't realize that you needed that network until you needed it. And when I talk to a lot of participants that go to either my breakfast or my seminars, I'll say, you know, you have to like you said, pay it forward. You have to be planning, definitely forecasting and building up your network. As Christy said, we're both Emory alums from Oxford and the college. And I actually majored in French cultural studies when I was in school, which my parents still don't think that's a major, but that's fine.
Culture is a major? What? Culture?
What? You should be in math, science, computers, biology. But in any case, I tell people, when I became a French major, when I declared my major, I didn't just start learning French. I had learned French when I was in middle school and continued to build my language skills before I declared that as a major. So, and the same thing with traveling abroad to France, which was amazing. I definitely recommend it, whether you're a French major or not. But going abroad and learning, different culture and studying, you can't just do that, start learning the language when you book your flight ticket. It takes, for me, it took about
There are quite a few people who do.
Oh, really? Well, it's always best to kind of know about the culture ahead of time, learn about different types of social protocols and cultural cues as well before you go places, and not just wait 2 or 3 days or even a week or a month,
Right.
just so that when you get to that particular place, you're acclimated to it and you can be more effective and not really stand out like a tourist. We always want to at least try and blend in.
Oh yeah, you at least have to make the effort,
Right.
right? So yeah, it's funny. I have a very interesting France story. Well, I'll digress here for a second, because in 2009, I went to Paris to do the Paris Marathon, my one and only marathon. It'll never happen again. Checked it off the bucket list. I'm done. But I spent 6 glorious days running around Paris, heading out to Versailles. We had just fabulous times, the girlfriend and I, and we're packing up our bags to leave the next morning, and the volcano erupts and shuts down all the European airports for 6 days.
Oh my gosh.
So what was to be a 6-day trip turned into a 12-day trip. Thankfully, we were still in our hotel, credit cards galore, so we were gonna be okay. But I had tried really hard leading into that. I have some very basic, a couple of years of French in high school, but we had taken a French for Travelers class before leaving. And I was so excited because I had my first full-on non-English conversation in the post office the day before we left. It took me 12 days to get there.
It's all good.
And I can still order an extra glass of wine.
Yes.
My favorite phrase is "Je voudrais un autre verre de vin, s'il vous plaît."
But do you even need to do that? I mean, can't you just hold up the empty glass?
No, it's so much more fun to say it. Come on.
All right. You like to say it. I just like drinking the wine. I mean.
Yes. Well, I like both, but it was such an accomplishment when I finally had that experience. But it does make a big difference. You have to make that investment ahead of time. So that has nothing to do with networking, but it was a fun story anyway. Most people who know me know that story because they followed it on Facebook with my husband was desperately trying to get me home, and it was a very, very interesting time period for sure.
You know what though? But I think there's an important point there.
Yep.
And Christy, you and Chi Chi have some common alumni association and some things like that. But the thing is, it's that one little thing that led to the conversation, that led to the connection, which led to the relationship. And now what's interesting is, oh, you studied French culture. I have a great story about France. But that's exactly it. I mean, now just because the tip of the iceberg is there, and you find something, any reason to connect with somebody, and you get a willing partner on either side of that conversation, and then it turns into more things. Because, people go to these networking events and like, well, I don't know anybody, and I probably don't have anything in common with anybody. You ever notice the more you talk to someone, the more you have in common with them?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big deterrent for people. Oh, there's a room full of people I don't know. Where's the door? Or where's the bar? Right? and neither one is necessarily
something to be said for a little liquid encouragement, right?
I mean, but the bar works to a point, then it starts to work against you.
That's true.
Right? And the door is not going to help when it comes to, building relationships if you're looking to get out. So, I mean, that was maybe a little bit of a digression, but a fun story. And I think it illustrates an important point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'm going to go back to your Fantastic Four statement. So, what of the four, what do people have the biggest challenge with when you're going through these workshops?
The biggest challenge out of the four is going to be the induct piece.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people think networking is just, let's go to an event. So they do the whole club hopping, if you will. I'm going to go to this club, I'll go to this association, I'll go to this meeting. But you're not really, like Jeff said, you're not building relationships, and you're not really kind of developing your skills in the type sense. Like I always recommend that people should join some type of organization or association where you can, kind of plant yourself and start to develop and establish, whether it's your business, your personal brand, or whatever it is that you want to get out of networking. So a lot of times, like I said, people think networking is just going to all these random events, but it really is building a network. And of course, as business people, we know that as a board of directors, or we know that as, just a group of people as your support to help and direct you. And a lot of times, or as in your case, a coach, executive coaches, different types of trainers and consultants. And a lot of times people don't do that. So you're just out networking, going to different events, but you're not really planted, you're not really focused, and you're not building a network so that, as Jeff said, if you decide to do a career change, or if you're moving, you don't have that social capital, you don't have those relationships, because everything has pretty much been surfaced. So that is one of the big challenges, is to getting people to realize that they have to build a network and not just go to random events here and there. Yeah.
On that, how long does it take to really build a network? Because I think people go to an event and they say, well, that was great, and now I've got these new friends, but there's not infrastructure within that friendship or that relationship that needs to be built. But you go to a lot of the regularly occurring networking events, whether it's your power networking breakfast or some of the other referral groups like BNI or some others. You've got to put your time in. I don't think a lot of people realize that. If you don't walk away with 10 brand new besties after your first networking breakfast, it may just be that you haven't put the time in yet. I mean, how long do you think that normally takes?
It ranges. So I would say, like, once you get those 10 cards or you've met those people, you should follow up as soon as possible, right? And go ahead and build that, or set that foundation, right? Instead of, I've heard people say, they wait 3, 4, 5 weeks, and it's like,
who are you again? Wait a second.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Then, to your point, depending on, what title they have or the position in your network, it can range. So if it's a mentor, it may take a little bit longer. If it's a colleague, then it might be a little bit quicker, because you're attending more events, you're more frequent in your communications, right? And especially if it's a customer, you want to reach out, a potential customer, you want to reach out as soon as possible.
Right.
That could even be quicker than that. So it really does range. But one of the things that I do say is, when you're building that relationship, you should start as soon as possible.
Do you find, Chi Chi, that a lot of people find you because they are looking for some sort of career transition, or are there other motivators to bring them into a workshop like the Great Follow-Up?
I would say it's, most of the time, it is a career transition.
Okay.
They're looking to branch out, and sometimes out of their industry, and not so much like career transition within their company.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
So some of them may be in transition. Some of them may already have jobs and want to transition. And then a few of them are students, so looking for opportunities.
Right, that makes sense.
Well, you're getting a real leg up if you're going to power networking breakfast as a student. That's tremendous.
That's a good thing, though. So let's talk a little bit about social media and the play, how it plays into networking. Jeff and I have had a lot of discussions about social media and authenticity, and especially when you look at our career fields as coaches, this is an area where there's authenticity is a real challenge because people feel like quantity is better than quality. But I'm interested in your thoughts on how it plays into networking.
Social media has been a great branch in networking. Sometimes I feel like it's almost like it has to have a good balance. When I talk about how I speak French, I always want to make sure that I'm great at speaking, reading, and writing. So I think when it comes to networking, you have to be really good at networking face-to-face as well as online. Social media is excellent when you want to create your personal brand or create an image for your company or you know, just have that image or that brand online. I think it's very vital. And then also for a lot of people or professionals who have busy schedules, who have that travel a lot or have international connections, then the social media piece is excellent because you have such a wide reach. You have the World Wide Web. And a lot of times people overlook that as well. So social media, I will say, plays a very big part in networking, but we don't want it to be the only piece of the pie.
Right. Do you find that there are certain social media applications that are more prevalent than others?
There are, you know, you have your big three, which is like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, but then there are also certain apps that are excellent depending on which industry you're in. So you may not necessarily have to do YouTube. You could do perhaps, let's see, MailChimp. I know that's not really considered social media, but from email marketing, it's a great way to connect with people through newsletters, creating those online communities and things, and really just that information sharing piece.
Right.
Another one that's sometimes overlooked, but Pinterest is actually a great social media platform. And I'm a Pinterest junkie, I'm sorry.
I am, but usually for craft projects that I do not do very well.
I love the visual piece, and it's so cool because you can also, you know, have followers, you know, create different boards. I love the creativity aspect, but that sometimes is overlooked. And of course, if you have, you know, a type of business where you're selling crafts or
Right.
you're a fashion blogger, or even just giving information, then that's perfect platform. But we just kind of tend to go to the big three and not think of these other kind of sub-social media platforms. So.
Do you find that it becomes too much of a focus sometimes? That's the other conversation, Jeff, and I've had quite a bit.
Yes.
It can suck a lot of time away, right?
Yes. Especially when you can have it on your phone and you can, you know, travel around with it, or on your tablet. Then you're hooked. Like I said, I'm hooked, and especially during the holidays, I'm like, oh, I just hope there's not a power outage. I'm doomed.
Oh, that's too funny. That's awesome. So Chi Chi, we're coming up on our 30 minutes here, but I do want to ask you one question that we always ask our interviewees, and that is, what is your why?
Great question. My why, and it kind of goes back to when Jeff was asking me how I started the business. The reason why I still keep doing simple networking, blood, sweat, and tears, is because I love to be creative. I love to be able to think outside the box and to use different skills to inspire people, to encourage people, or to really give them a different aspect or just think differently about networking. One of the things that I have on my website, I say networking is a lifestyle and a tool for success. You know, Simple Networking wants to change the way you think about networking. So it really is the creativity piece. And, you know, we look at some of our creative people past history. One of my favorite, of course, is Walt Disney, as well as other engineers and scientists like George Washington Carver. I mean, all the wonderful things he did with peanuts. That creativity.
Who knew?
Who knew? So I just love to be able to sit down, brainstorm, think outside the box. Imagination and creativity is pretty much my why.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I tell you what, you're really good at it, Chi Chi, and I have had such fun with you over the last couple of months, and we really have only known each other for a couple of months.
Yes, Jeff, Christie, and I, we tag team network.
Perfect.
We do, but we've had so much fun, and we have yet to play a round of golf together, Jeff. I'm not sure how that happened, but we're going to have to rectify that as soon as the weather warms up.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as the weather warms up, right? It's winter at the end of 2016 right now. You guys are down south. I'm in Michigan. It's 9. Tell me about warming up.
We'll be out on the golf course before you do, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I would hope so. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining us today, Chi Chi. This was really a tremendous interview. You got a lot of insight, obviously, as one would expect, but you've definitely exceeded even my lofty expectations of your expertise with this. And we really appreciate you sharing some of that knowledge, just a little bit, because I know there's a lot more there with our listeners today.
Well, and I hope, Chi Chi, you'll come back and visit with us again, too, because I do want to cover some of the discussions around cultural awareness and diversity training, too, because I think that's going to be something that is going to come up more and more over the coming years. And I think our audience is really going to learn a lot from you.
Absolutely. It's been a joy and a pleasure. I've had big fun.
Oh, excellent. I love it. Big fun. That's awesome. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us at the Why and the Buy. Jeff, do we have a topic identified for next week? I think we're winging it next week. So.
The topic is fly by the seat of your pants like
There
a pro. That's where we're going with this one. So awesome.
Excellent. All right, everyone, we'll see you next week.
You got to remember, when you know your whys, your what's in your hows get way better. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Cool.
Okay, there you go.
You got it.
That was our pause.
Yay! Bravo!
So Chi Chi, this is a time where we can kind of have just some banter back and forth. I don't know if there was anything that we didn't cover or maybe didn't ask you about that you want to talk through. Because one of the things that we can do, and we probably will do for a couple of the interviews that we've done, is split it up into 2 different podcasts, and we'll broadcast them about 3 or 4 weeks apart so that we can get kind of some maximum exposure for us and for you. So if there's anything in addition that you want to talk through, let's, we can certainly do so now.
I can't think of anything off the bat.
And we can certainly have you back too.
I was about to say, I think that's definitely something we'd love to do. And if you think of anything, you can always just let me know. And you and I are going to be connecting anyway. So
right.
So we can certainly brainstorm on some additional topics and things that you are passionate about that you'd like to come in and talk about.
I thought it was good. The content was excellent for that 30 minutes, and we covered a lot of information as well. Yeah. I know one of the things when it comes to networking, some people kind of get overwhelmed, with too much information at one time. So I thought that was good. So
we've been trying to keep everything to 30 minutes if we can. It's, I'm a podcast addict, right? So I don't listen to the radio in my car anymore. It's all podcasts, but I do find that an hour is a little long, even for a commute in Atlanta, to be able to stay consistent. So 30 minutes, it seems like you can kind of keep people's attention, and we'll see. We haven't launched yet, so
right.
So we'll know when we get there. But we have. Well, gosh, I guess now we probably have.
This is 8. 10. We have This will be episode 8. And then we got a little carried away. What we did, Christy, is there's going to be almost no editing to this, because when we decided, whatever it was 35 minutes ago, to just kind of kick it off and go.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to record anything else.
Okay. Perfect.
I think it just kind of went. But what we found, Chi Chi, was we got a little carried away with when we did an interview about a week and a half ago, and we got a little carried away, and it was really good. And then we tried to end it, and then Don just kept talking, and we kept recording. And
how
so
to manage guests. That's the challenge, right?
There was a lot of stuff that came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, occasionally when we just get carried away, it's like, let's see if we can break that into two.
Right.
But if you're, if it's easy enough for you to hop onto a call like this, and we can do this whenever something else comes up, and cultural awareness is a big deal. Diversity training is a big deal, and networking, how it all plays into all that stuff. I mean, these are things that Christy and I were talking before, some of these things that maybe get written off as, whatever. Who needs diversity training? Yes, we need diversity training. Listen, this is not an HR podcast, right? But what we can do is you take some of this stuff that gets kind of cast aside, and you shine a little more light on it from an experienced professional's point of view, or even a sales guy's point of view, right? And I can't sit in this chair any longer than I already have, right? But if we can make it, engaging and entertaining, and bring a different point of view to it, then it helps. Then it raises the level, and everybody benefits.
Well, I tell you, the topic that I really want to bring you back to talk to us on is personal branding. So we're going to tackle that as a single topic on the podcast, and I think you would be a fabulous subject matter expert to bring in and talk through that.
I get excited about that personal branding, and I'll share with you guys. I had an opportunity once again through our Emory network. So it's Emory Day today. Jeff, you're an honorary alum.
That's right. That's right. You shout out for Emory, right?
And this is networking at its finest. So one of the young ladies who works at the Alumni Association, she was also in the graduate school getting her PhD. And when she heard what I did, she said, I'd love for you to come and do some workshops with me for empowering women. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is great. She's like, I want you to talk about networking and branding. I said, sure. And then she says, we're going to prison. The women are in prison, and they're going to be released within a year or less. So we want to do these empowerment workshops because through my research, as I'm getting my PhD, I'm studying how kind of this cycle of not just, mostly women going back into jail as repeat offenders, but there's only a small portion of them, maybe 30%, that stay out and don't repeat that cycle. So what are these 30% doing? And the thing is, she was telling me that once you're, I guess, incarcerated and you're out of jail, you can't go back to talk to the other inmates. So she has to go in, but she did interview a lot of these, the women that have been released. So of course I'm trying to keep my composure.
Right.
That was the whole point of me starting my business, was to, let me knock on wood, go to jail. So, so I'm just like, this is my Academy Award piece. Oh, here's my card. Please contact me and let's follow up. And I'm praying she does not call. And of course she calls, right? Of course she calls. And yeah, we're headed to the prison. And
so have you done one of these workshops yet? Have you done one?
This happened about 3 years ago. So I've been about 4 times, and we did about 4 of these workshops for the women where we talk about branding. And the significance in the branding piece is because they already have one image, right? So when they leave and start their life again in the society, right? In society, they should have another image. And that's what we talk about in the personal branding aspect. It was an adventure, to say the least.
Well, I can imagine. But how rewarding. I'm sure, some people probably embraced it more than others, but how rewarding to watch those that really had that aha moment.
No, absolutely. It was an experience that I never imagined. And to your point, when you see, like I've watched a lot of TV and movies, so I have these misconcepts, right? So terrible. So terrible.
Wait, is there a superhero coming up or something?
Right.
Look, wait. Here's my Wonder Woman. There's my mascot. Kindred spirits, honey.
So, and for us as entrepreneurs, when you have to do a presentation, the first thing you talk about is whatever books you have, whatever programs you have coming up, and you can't do that. You can't advertise. As a matter of fact, I couldn't say my first and my last name. They were just like, it's just Miss Okezie. You can't say your business, and you can't say where you live, and things of that nature. And you can't, obviously you can't sell. You're like, go to my website and
connect with me. Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, can't do
that.
Oh,
that's interesting. And I bet that was harder to do than
it was, because
you would expect, right?
You're conditioned to do that.
Yeah.
So you can't. And then the other thing is the security checkpoint took about, on average, 45 minutes.
Wow.
That's to go in and to go out.
Right.
And so, we're just used to, walking into the store, right? Just walk into the door.
Right. Well, or as a facilitator, bringing materials. I mean, I have a huge bag that I roll into every client.
I'm glad you said that, Christy, because we couldn't bring our cell phones. We couldn't bring any of our computers, and we couldn't even keep our ID on us for reasons, because if it gets lost, they can use that.
Right.
So they did have, you could bring in some papers, but here's the interesting piece. I didn't want to be censored. So with that being said, I didn't bring any papers in that they could read over and look at and kind of say, well, we don't think they should know about this.
Look at you.
We don't think they should know about that.
Smart.
So I started to memorize my presentations, and that was challenging, but at the same time, as entrepreneurs, we love autonomy. So I was like, I don't want people to censor me.
There's a reason I don't want to work for anyone else. Right?
I'm so defiant. So I did start to memorize my presentation. So that was a new skill.
Yeah.
Up with, and I used that in my Power Networking breakfast. I memorized a lot of the teaching points and things of that nature. But I know that personal branding is such a big piece of everything. And this story, about going into this prison and we talked about to probably over 100 women.
Wow.
20 women.
Wow.
And
do you have any statistics on where these women are today, or if any of them?
Because of security reasons, we couldn't connect with them afterwards, all they could do is probably have like maybe statistics that could be published through the prison systems, perhaps. But it would be very generalized. It wouldn't be that specific program. So that was the only downfall. Because the other thing is, like, when you're done with a program, you want a survey.
Yeah, right. Well, how did I do? What was my investment, right?
We couldn't do that.
Well, so you were awesome, right?
That's right.
It's like, I was awesome. There
when
was
you
not
have
one
no feedback, assume you were awesome.
I got no negative feedback. I'll tell you what, I never get any negative feedback out of the prisons.
Right.
How about that? That's an awesome story. Absolutely. Well, you're definitely coming back for personal branding. We're going to talk about that again. This may show up on the podcast, by the way, because that was a fabulous story.
Not a problem.
Oh, this is a mini-sode. This is a mini-sode.
I'll talk about
That's right.
I'll talk about some of the personal branding tips that I gave the ladies.
Okay, perfect.
I can definitely talk about that.
Definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll definitely plan that then. It'll be a few weeks.
Okay.
But by the time we get to personal branding, we will have actually officially launched.
Yay!
We'll see where we end up at that point. I know.
We will have a brand.
We will have a brand. That's it. Look, we're just excited that we have recordings and we have a website and, you know, a lot of those things that we've been pushing for a few months now. So.
No, it looks great. I was telling Christy I was able to get on the website, and I did, oh, well, yeah, of course, earlier, and listen to your, the Sacred Cows podcast. That was great. That was good. And I have to listen to the other one.
Okay.
Wow.
Excellent. Well, we'll let you know when we launch, and maybe you can help get the word out for us. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Not just a shameless plug by no means, but
look, no issue with shameless plugs.
Well, I mean, technically we've already launched. We just we're not out on iTunes yet. That's all.
We haven't put it out on, it's up on the website.
It's on the website.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm going to be over the holidays for sure. I'm definitely going to be at work doing this, and you know, episodes like this where they're just kind of, hey, here's our interview. We've got all the introductions and the kind of. We
even have a house band, Chi Chi.
We have a house band.
I heard some music in the beginning. I was like, "Ooh, this is fancy."
I know. It's Jeff's cousin.
So it's cool. Yeah, no, I like the way it's coming together. I really do. Yeah. So it'll be up sooner than later, and the plan is to launch an episode a week. So we've got 3 kind of polished and. I'd like to get, and this is really our 8th episode. So I'd like to get 4 or 5 together, you know, a couple more together, and then just push them all out, probably between the holidays.
Okay.
And get them on iTunes, because iTunes.
Did we do it? I never did any research on whether or not it's better to just launch or launch in January.
Well.
Do you think between the holidays?
I don't know. At this point, we think about why we're doing it. Yeah, we think about why we're doing it. Let's get them out, and the website's already out, so the clock's ticking, right? So I'd like to put 4 or 5 out all at once, and then be on a weekly cadence after that.
Yeah,
I know my own self from a discipline standpoint. If I can get them cut and then get them mixed, and then have that's another thing that I know I have to do by Thursday. This has got to go up, then it'll go up. Otherwise it's, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Oh yeah, I'll get to that. It's, some of it's learning curve. Some of it's just, I don't wanna. And it'll get going. So
that's it. We have learned a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I am a professional web developer now, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure any other professional web developers would think so, but I do.
You know what you need to know.
That's right. Exactly. I get by.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Chi Chi.
Yeah, Chi Chi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was so much fun. Big fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I guess that's it. Jeff, do we have anything else we want to record?
No, I don't think so.
Just think up on our next session and.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we doing that next week?
We can. I can do it if you can do it.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can. All right. We'll get together and we'll get together and do that and set a date.
Okay.
And a time.
All right. Sounds good. Cool. Chi Chi, have a wonderful holiday if I don't talk to you before. And I will see you at the Power Breakfast and maybe even at a book club event before then.
Yeah, sounds good. You guys happy, safe holidays as well. Nice meeting you, Jeff.
And you too. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye.
Bye.